Right now, on Currents News, answering the call, one deacon from Vietnam is very close to living his dream of becoming a priest. Plus, Holy Land in crisis. Violence escalates between Israel and Hamas. U.S. officials watching the situation closely.
Israel has a right to defend itself when you have thousands of rockets flying into your territory.
President Biden hopes for a quick end to the violence. The gasoline pipeline is flowing again after a cyber attack, but gas shortages continue. Local leaders with an urgent plea.
If you do not need gas, don't fill up.
And kids as young as 12 are able to get vaccinated in New York City. What parents need to know. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. We begin with our new series, Answering the Call. We're introducing you to men who are on the road to priesthood in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Deacon Joseph Hung Tran wanted to do nothing more with his life than to become a priest. Jessica Easthope spoke with him and has more for us. Jessica.
Thanks, Christine. Every year we get to see how these men who come from all different walks of life are truly connected through their vocation. This deacon you're about to meet, Deacon Joseph Hung Tran, really took me by surprise. You'll see coming up, he's a big sports guy, super athletic, plays soccer every single day, even played for his seminary team, and has found that his love for the sport has drawn him to the diversity of the diocese. Deacon Joseph Hung Tran has had one goal since he was 12 years old: become a priest.
Pastor or the priest who I have met before. So, I just desire and imagine in my mind, oh, I want to be like him, how to serve.
Now at the age of 38, his dream is about to come true. He'll be ordained on June 5th. For the last 3 years, the Diocese of Brooklyn has been his home. It's far away from where he grew up in Vietnam, but he builds a new bond with the diverse community on his daily walks from St. Agatha's Parish to Sunset Park Playground.
I feel very happy how to work with people who come from different countries, different culture, different languages. I love that.
Armed with the Word of God and his favorite soccer ball, he passes people he hopes to be ministering to soon. His spiritual and physical health are top-notch.
Many people, they call me that is like sportman. Soccer and the volleyball is like badminton, tennis, billiards, and ping pong too.
Growing up in Vietnam, his dad was his spiritual guide, bringing him to attend Mass at 4 in the morning every day. He's one of 10 children, the first boy after 5 girls.
My daddy said that this is another girl. He will move our house to another town. Thank be to God, that is me. And after that he said, oh, if I have a boy, I will offer to Jesus, to God, for the vocation.
Deacon Joseph says it's not his favorite food, Vietnamese pho, that makes him feel most full. It's serving others. Now he's fulfilling that promise to God. His love of Christ flowing from him every day.
I feel very happy and peaceful when I can help others, when I serve others, and when I can help the people recognize Jesus.
He wants to bring an effervescent attitude to his mission of evangelization, making faith more rich so he can share it. Though he's had this goal for most of his life, Deacon Joseph has been working toward becoming a priest, going to university and then the seminary for almost 11 years. He said he didn't have the easiest time learning English, but knows that his culture and background are an asset, especially here in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Christine?
Absolutely. Thank you, Jess. And you can watch the priesthood ordination live right here on Net TV. It takes place Saturday, June 5th at 11 in the morning from the Co-Cathedral of St. Joseph. U.S. bishops are praying for peace amid conflict between Israel and Hamas in the Holy Land. The chair of the International Justice and Peace Committee saying, quote, "It is a cycle we have unfortunately witnessed and spoken out against many times. But because of our great love in Christ Jesus, we remain ever present and close to the people of this land until the peace of God reigns in its fullness forever." Israel says at least 7 people have been killed by the nearly 1,600 rockets launched by Hamas since Monday. The Palestinian Health Ministry says 67 people have been killed there, including 17 children. But Israel insists it's targeting Hamas intelligence officers. Elliot Gottkind has more from Tel Aviv.
A number of developments over the past few hours. The Israeli Defense Forces says that since the latest flare-up of violence, more than 1,600 rockets have been fired from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip into Israel. For its part, the IDF says that it has struck more than 600 targets inside the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza says that 67 Palestinians have been killed and almost 400 injured. In Israel, more than 7 have been killed and more than 200 injured. At the same time, the diplomatic wheels have been cranking into gear. US President Joe Biden and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a conversation last night. Biden addressing reporters saying that my expectation and hope is that this will be closing down sooner rather than later. President Reuven Rivlin has called for an end to the madness, and Prime Minister Netanyahu also tweeting out a video of himself saying that I don't care if your blood is boiling, you can't come to an Arab citizen to try to lynch him, just as we can't see Arab citizens do so to Jewish citizens. Elliot Gottkind, Tel Aviv.
The Israeli Minister of Defense says the army will not be deployed to cities like Gaza. Instead, Israel will send in more police reinforcements in an attempt to restore order. The Colonial Pipeline is now running again after a ransomware attack shut it down for nearly a week. President Biden spoke out about who the attackers are.
We do not believe, I emphasize, we do not believe the Russian government was involved in this attack. But we do have strong reason to believe that the criminals who did the attack are living in Russia.
Biden called the attack an urgent reminder of why the country needs to strengthen its infrastructure. The president is also calling on people to not panic as fuel shortages continue in the southeast, causing some to hoard gas. Gas.
As far as gas, yeah, we ain't got no more.
And patience.
I don't know how this is going to work for all of us.
Running out all along the East Coast.
I've went to like 6 different stations and nobody's got any gas.
Demand spiked by 40% on Monday in 5 states, from Florida to Virginia.
I was on my way to my dad's house and my gas tank is basically empty and all the gas pumps has out of service.
Officials blaming public panic for what seems like a sudden short supply.
The shortages that we're seeing are pretty much solely related to panic buying from people, and I want to encourage people not to do that. Don't fill up your car unless you have to.
The nervous fill-ups sparked by last week's Colonial Pipeline cyber attack.
There should be no cause for hoarding gasoline, especially in light of the fact that the pipeline should be substantially operational by the end of this week.
The 5,500-mile pipeline moves roughly 45% of the East Coast's fuel supply. Gas Buddy reporting more than 1,800 stations are offline, saying in North Carolina, an eye-popping 65% are running dry with long lines stretching for miles. If drivers are lucky enough to find fuel, it's costing them.
6 gallons of gas for $35, that's absolutely ridiculous.
The average price of a gallon of gas jumping to $3.
More expensive than we've seen in quite some time. Actually, the last time we were at that price point was the end of October in 2014.
Experts warn that panic purchases could create a domino effect, meaning fear of a shortage could actually create one.
You don't want to miss out. You don't want to be the one that doesn't get gas.
Federal and state authorities have relaxed some regulations, which should help get fuel to gas stations more quickly. It should also help ease prices. So far, there have been more than 1,200 complaints of price gouging in Georgia and the Carolinas. There's a lot more news headed your way. Kids between 12 and 15 can now be vaccinated in New York City, why experts say you should be rolling up your kid's sleeve. Plus, we're marking 40 years since an assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. And more than a century ago, the 3 secrets from Fatima changed the lives of 3 small children forever. And coming up on Tuesday, grocery store prices are soaring.
Definitely noticeable how prices are higher.
And prices could climb even more.
Frankly,
This is going to go on for a while.
Families are struggling to put food on the table. What can you do to save on your grocery bills? Join us for a Currents News special report, Supermarket Shock, Tuesday at 7. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has updated its mask guidance for people who are fully vaccinated.
Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing.
The director also saying people who are fully vaccinated can start doing the things they stopped because of the pandemic. She also hopes all schools in the country will open at full capacity 5 days a week starting in the fall. Meantime, teens in New York City can now roll up their sleeves and receive the COVID-19 vaccine. The city is offering Pfizer's vaccine to children between the ages of 12 and 15. The move comes after the CDC committee endorsed the use of the 2-shot dose for children on Wednesday. And for parents with concerns, Dr. Robert Tabali of the Catholic Medical Association says the vaccine is safe for children.
All they had were site reactions like a sore arm, like everybody gets even when they get a tetanus shot, headache, a little fever, that type of stuff, but no significant side effects.
City health officials say more than 250 sites in the city administer the Pfizer vaccine and are all taking walk-in appointments. A majority of schools in the Diocese of Brooklyn are already in person, with plans to fully reopen all 69 schools soon. The Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio, sits down with former Tablet editor Ed Wilkinson to talk about the great work Catholic schools have done during this pandemic in this week's Into the Deep. Ed.
Thank you. Bishop DiMarzio is with us today, and we're going to talk about Catholic schools as we come to the end of this Catholic school year. Bishop, you must be very proud of our Catholic schools, because they remained open all of this year when public schools basically were online and were closed to in-person teaching. So how proud are you of our system?
Well, I'm very proud, not of the schools themselves, but of our teachers and administrators. They did it. I wanted to keep the schools open, but if they didn't want to do it, it couldn't happen. Mm-hmm. I can't teach all those classes. So those almost 2,000 teachers we have, and the principals, they voted to stay open. We polled them in July and asked them would they want to return to the classroom. 95% said yes. Some said because of health reasons they didn't want to. And then we started the online program where they were able to work on that program. So we put everybody to work. And if it were not for them, we would not have had the schools open.
Yeah. What is the advantage to having the schools open? I mean, to the children themselves, I mean, their growth process is going to be stunted, I think, if they're not in school with other kids.
Well, it's not that easy to do online learning. A little bit is good. A full program is rather difficult unless they have the backup at home, unless the mothers are home to help them. And, we are looking at to continue a full online program, but this is for people who, for students that have the parental help. If online program completely without help is impossible. And so they need socialization besides their education. They have to work with other people. They have to be with their friends. They have to recreate. All of that's important in the growth of our children.
Yeah. What effect has this policy had on enrollments? I understand that some schools have really picked up a lot of students because parents want their kids in the classrooms.
Well, they have. The enrollment has been, this year we didn't lose as many as we normally would. So it's been a growth factor, steady, not dramatic, but very steady growth factor for us.
Yeah. Do you think that the government maybe overstepped its bounds in closing public schools the way they did? Do you think they reacted too quickly on this?
Well, it's not just the government, it's the union, teachers union, and a lot of other factors. Maybe small is beautiful. We're smaller. We're more in touch with, I think, the people who work with us. They've chosen to come to Catholic schools. They don't make as much money as they would someplace else. So it's a more of, I would say, a family affair than something where the government, it's basically an institutional issue.
Yeah.
So we were able to do what they could not do.
Yeah.
So again, all comparisons usually are odious, but I'm happy we stayed open. I wish they were able to do more in staying open, because the kids were on the streets, you know.
Yeah.
They weren't staying home, and it did hurt the whole city. And I think we're going to see that when the scores start testing again, you're going to see that they're a little bit behind.
Yeah. The fact that the Catholic schools have been open has been mentioned by the media. Do you think this has been a good showcase for Catholic schools on what they can do in a pinch like this?
Well, I mean, we can showcase, we can show our scores and everything, but it doesn't reach the minds of our legislators, who keep holding back anything we ask for, we have to fight for. It was a terrible thing that we had to go to court to get funding to do testing. We had to do the testing ourselves. We had to find money, but we were denied that by the city administration. It doesn't make sense. I mean, we just want what's right, what lawfully comes to us. We're not trying to put the public schools out of business, but they look like they're trying to put us out of business sometimes when they don't cooperate.
Yeah, great, Bishop. Thanks so much, and congratulations on a great school year. Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
And now we're going back to our news desk.
Thank you, Ed and Bishop DiMarzio. Still to come on Currents News, hear the terrifying moments of the assassination attempt against Pope John Paul II 4 decades later. And we're celebrating the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back.
Nunca se olviden que tenemos una madre y que nos quiere mucho.
Pope Francis sending a surprise video to thousands of the faithful as they gather in Portugal to celebrate the feast day of Our Lady of Fatima. It was over a century ago that the lives of 3 small children were changed forever. The Blessed Mother appearing to them in a series of apparitions, delivering secrets that are still being discussed and dissected to this day. Currents News' Michelle Powers has that story.
Children, psychologists will tell us, are most open to things like visions.
At the height of World War I, the Great War, 3 shepherd children saw the Virgin Mary before them. She shared 3 visions.
I would look at all 3 of them as snapshots of what the request or the requirement of the Blessed Mother is.
Monsignor Michael Hardiman says the first was a vision of hell, a plea to save souls. The second, a warning. Mary told the children that if men did not stop offending God, a greater war would begin, with communism at its center. These 2 so-called secrets were revealed when one of the children, Lucia, wrote them down. The third was sealed, not to be opened until 1960.
I think the fundamental reason was that she thought that all of the people would be dead, including herself.
In 1960, the Vatican said the secret would remain forever sealed, and people began to speculate. Some thought it could possibly foretell the apocalypse.
It's not that Mary told the children not to say anything. It's that the authorities said, oh, we don't want to disclose this right now, so let's put them in the drawer. I would say they didn't really have the theological sophistication to be able to explain.
Following John Paul II's assassination attempt on the feast day of Fatima in 1981, the Pope asked for the envelope containing the third secret. What he read wasn't revealed until the year 2000. The Vatican officially says the writing is a description of a bishop in white, killed alongside people of various social classes. Some believe the vision to be St. John Paul. Monsignor Hardiman looks at it differently.
The third vision is the struggle of the world and the triumph of the cross.
Although some believe the private revelations of the children relate to past events, or maybe even future prophecies, Monsignor Hardiman sees a common thread through all of them. The message of Mary: pray the rosary for the salvation of souls. For Currents, I'm Michelle Powers.
As Michelle mentioned, it's been 40 years since Catholics around the world watched in horror as a man attempted to take the life of Pope John Paul II. Now a relic from that frightening day decades ago is giving hope to people around the world. Justin McClellan has that story.
This house, run by the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul in Rome, is a refuge for single mothers, migrants, and the poor seeking assistance. But it has also become a pilgrimage site because of this. The undershirt worn by John Paul II on the day he was shot in St. Peter's Square in 1981.
You can still see the Pope's blood stains on the relic, and you can make out 3 distinct holes. They are the holes caused by bullets. Not because there were 3 bullets, but since the shirt was folded over itself, because of how he was standing.
These religious sisters tell us how this relic ended up here, less than 2 miles from the Vatican. It all began with this woman, Anna Stragellini, the nurse who kept the relic in her closet for years.
In the operating room, they cut his shirt into 2 pieces and threw it on the floor because they had to operate on the Pope. When they finished, she realized that the shirt was still there and would probably end up in the garbage, so she decided to pick it up.
The nurse later gave the shirt to the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul, a community she felt very close to. Since then, pilgrims have been coming here to pray, asking St. John Paul II for favors or to thank him for his help. They have many touching stories of the saint's intercession.
A woman told me that she wanted to have a child, but she couldn't have one, and she came here to pray almost every day. Finally, she became pregnant, but the doctors told her that she and her child were in great danger. She and her husband asked John Paul II for a miracle. In the end, the child was born and is in good health. So is she. They named him John Paul.
Because of Anna Stragellini's profound intuition, one of the most important relics of John Paul II remains preserved today. It is the surviving relic that has had the most direct contact with the saint's body, to the point of being stained with his blood.
That was Justin McClellan reporting. While recovering in the hospital, Pope John Paul II realized the day of his shooting was the Fatima feast day. And 1 year after the attack, traveled to Fatima so he could thank the Blessed Mother for saving his life. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. On this day in Catholic history, we leave you with a piece of journalistic history as well. The Vatican radio transmission that took place as the Pope Saint was being taken to the hospital. Just days later, the Pope would publicly forgive his would-be killer and use the event to promote a message of forgiveness. Hope to see you again next time.
La folla è tutta in piedi, non commenta quasi la scena tragica cui ha assistito. Sono quasi tutti in silenzio, aspettano notizie. Un'udienza generale troncata da 4 o 5 spari in rapida successione, il Santo Padre è stato evidentemente, certamente colpito. Abbiamo solamente visto il Santo Padre prima vacillare, barcollare e poi cadere di schianto in braccio al suo segretario, Don Stanislao, e in braccio al suo aiutante di camera. A questo punto la vetturetta scoperta con a bordo il Santo Padre è partita a tutta velocità, è passata fra la gente, fra l'orrore della gente ed è entrata in Vaticano attraverso l'Arco delle Campane.